Adam, so wonderful to meet you. How's it going so far? You've been doing a lot of press for this wonderful film.
Oh yes, I've been on the road for 4 weeks now, and I've run out of socks, and so I head back to Australia on Thursday.
Time to do some laundry. I mean, come on, really? Or just buy new socks. Just buy
Yeah,
new socks.
yeah,
Yeah.
just buy new ones.
I absolutely adored this film. It was beautiful. Oh my goodness. I did not expect that I was going to need Kleenex watching it. So I have to thank you for that. But I have to say, I have to tell you because I don't think I'll ever look at a snail the same way again. What is it about snails that captivates your mind?
Oh, well, look, there's many things, I think primarily I chose snails because, you touch their antennas, which you're not meant to do, of course, and
Yes.
they retract into their shell. And that's sort of what Grace is doing her whole life. She's going into the safety and protection of her hoard and her shield. Um, but also originally it was Memoir of a Ladybird, but then that film Ladybird came out. But also Ladybirds was all getting a bit saccharine and cutesy.
Yeah.
Um, but then also I love the swirl and a snail shell, and I thought that would be a really lovely visual motif to have through the film, and
Yeah.
it's symbolic of life going full circle. So there's that sort of symbolism. And also I found out that snails can't reverse, they can only move forward. And
Yeah.
linked into my favorite quote by Søren Kierkegaard that life can only be understood backwards, but we have to live it forward. So it was all these little links that I found, and I thought, yep, it's going to be snails.
Hey, and then there's just so many messages, though. I mean, very subtle, but there is a lot of symbolism in the film, whether it's hoarding. And I mean, there's just so much. When did this idea come to you, Adam? Like you said them, because I always say that being, a filmmaker, you have to be quite patient. But to be a stop animation filmmaker, like, God love you, my friend, because patience, whoa, you must have it in droves.
Well, weirdly, I don't. I'm very impatient, and I actually gave up animating a while ago because I just don't have the patience. So I have my minions doing it for me now. But look, I
Yeah.
think it's probably the most challenging part of the whole process is actually the financing. The rest is quite meditative. But yes, you certainly have to be a certain type of person to go into this crazy art form. But yeah, look, I love writing. So I spend years writing this one, I think 3 years all up, 16 drafts. And animation is so prescribed that you really have to lock things in at the very early script stage. There's a little bit of room for improvisation, but not much. Once the storyboard and the script are locked off, then you just have to then color it in, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. The story, like I said, there's just so much going on here, but you really, really feel immediately for these characters. There's no question about it. Um, what compelled you, I guess, to use Grace kind of as your protagonist, and make us just feel so much for her? It's quite amazing story.
Well, Grace is based partially on my mother and my father, who were hoarders, but also a friend of mine, very close friend, who was born with a cleft palate. And as
Mm,
a child, she had a lot of operations on her mouth, and at school was bullied and teased, and so she had a very traumatic childhood. But then she grew up to be this very well-adjusted, quite an extrovert actually. And I was fascinated by how does someone rebuild themselves and transform and get that confidence back? And so yeah, I had all these notes. I'd written these notes years ago. I was going to make a short film about her. And actually, she came to the London Film Festival. She lives in London now.
oh,
And I was so nervous, but she gave me her blessing and said she loved
good.
it. So yeah, so all my characters are based on real people. I'm not very good at inventing characters from thin air. I have to steal from my family and friends, and they're always very nervous when I start writing a script.
Not just writing how they're gonna look, right, as an animated character. Okay,
I've
so
got
let's
Grace
go.
here actually. There she is.
I seriously want a Grace. I honestly want that from you. I know it cost me millions of dollars to get that from you, but well, we could do a layaway plan or something.
I'll
But
organize one. Yeah, yeah.
but speaking of that, like I honestly, your voice talent is, I mean, seriously, you hit the jackpot with this voice talent. When you decide, like when you start thinking about what your character is going to look like, do you have the voice people already in place so that it's kind of modeled on them, or do you already have an idea what they're going to look like, and then you get the voice talent after?
It's sort of sometimes they feed into each other, but generally, once I'm a very linear filmmaker, so once I've written the script and then I start the storyboard, that's when I start to really draw and play around with what they're going to look like. And I am also the production designer, so
Hmm.
I have a lot of control over how they look. But then sometimes, sometimes it's just a coincidence too, how I never the actors don't inform how the characters look, but sometimes by coincidence they look a similar way. Sarah has a very what I call a horizontal face,
Yeah.
what I call the Bert and Ernie factor. Some people have an Ernie face, some people have a Bert face.
Right.
And Grace, Sarah's got such an endearing face. She's got these little squinty eyes and she blushes and she's got a few freckles and so there was just some beautiful similarities. But
Yeah.
the way I choose my actors too is when I get an idea for a voice, I'll go and watch those actors' other films and shut my eyes. So I
Hmm.
watched a lot of Sarah's earlier films with my eyes shut. And you're just trying to imagine the character and the voice coming together. Sometimes they don't marry. So there's hours and hours and hours of just listening to, I listen to Kate Blanchett and Nicole Kidman and all of these other famous Australian actors.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then but then you have random people like Nick Cave, and my favorite actor working with was Dominique Pignon, who's the lead in Jean-Pierre Jeunet's films Amélie, Delicatessen,
Yes.
and he was wonderful. I just adored him. He just knew exactly what I wanted, and so yeah, we're very lucky. We got our wish list and got everyone we wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, and Cody, he's so great too. I just finished watching him a disclaimer and
Yeah. Well,
oh my goodness.
he was shooting that simultaneously with
Yeah.
ours, and so yeah, he came into the studio quite often, very brooding. And I said, "What
Yeah.
if you had a bad day?" And he said, "Oh, you won't believe what I'm doing at the moment."
Yeah, you won't believe it when you see it. I mean, he's a wonderful, wonderful actor. I've had the chance to talk to him many times. How do you even, after you've done this, there's so much work. I mean, I think I was reading the stats for this, what, 200 sets, 250 character. I mean, and then each character, obviously, like every little movement, laugh, smile, eye movement, the whole thing. Like I said, you have to have so much patience to do it. And yes, of course, you have people helping you do this. I get it. But how do you kind of, when you're done, you've seen the finished product, Adam, how on earth do you decompress from something like this?
Well, to be honest, I haven't had a chance to decompress yet because the film was sort of not rushed, but as soon as we finished, we had to enter the Annecy Animation Festival, which is the Cannes of animation, and
Yeah.
it's been sort of back-to-back festivals since. And do you know what? I sort of I'm feeling a lot of relief at the moment, even though I'm exhausted and traveling a lot. I feel like my job is now done, and
Right.
the 8 years of worrying is now over, and the baby's born. I can't change how it looks. It's got all its fingers and toes. It's being well received. It's not an ugly baby.
No, not in any way.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. But yeah, I think relief rather than elation or anything. I just feel I can sleep finally.
Yeah, well, listen, just prepare for award season, my friend, because honestly, this is really one of my top 10 from the year. It really is beautiful. You've done such a spectacular job, and it just touches the heart. It's just so fantastic. I really do appreciate it, and I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Bonnie. No, thank you for your kind words. It's doing these sorts of interviews in themselves really gives me a lot of joy and relief as well, because there's nothing worse than doing an interview with somebody who you can tell doesn't like the film.
Oh no, I love it. And just remember me when you're starting to give away your little sculptures. I'm on the list for a grace, okay?
I'll put you on the list, on the
I
waiting list.
appreciate it and get some new socks. Speak to you soon. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Thanks, Bonnie.